This is Alex awaiting an appointment with an immigration official at Ellis Island in 1923. We learned quite a bit about her during Season 2, Episode 3. Remember, she's pregnant.
Blondie, do you have any food in that fancy bag? No. No crisps, no biscuits, no nothing.
I have no food.
Okay, any moms or dads with kids low-key amazed that Alex, A, isn't constantly hungry, and B, doesn't constantly have to go to the bathroom? She's now second trimester, big enough to be pushing up on that bladder a little bit, but I digress. This episode was a little bit of a history lesson, which fans either loved or hated. As someone whose grandparents came through Ellis Island, I was glued to my television. What about you? These videos are always a conversation, and at least once a week we answer your questions and comments and respond to your conspiracy theories in the comments section below. This video will unpack what Alex went through and explain why fans believe she is in big, big trouble. We're also going to dive into Elizabeth's threats to leave the Dutton Ranch. Show of hands, who thinks she's actually going to leave? Cara Dutton delivered an Emmy-worthy speech in this episode, but I'm gonna begin with tragedy. We lost a good man this week, and honestly, I'm pretty bummed about it. If you recall, Spencer's life was spared in episode 2 when he agreed to take a truckload of illegal alcohol to Fort Worth, Texas.
For the police, you can be bribed. And for the police, you can't.
Photos shared before episode 3 showed that Spencer was standing outside of the vehicle. I took this as a very bad sign. I'm not right often, but give me my flowers here. He and Luca come upon a roadblock, and Spencer pulls off the road and says, "I'm out." Luca says, "I'm in."
Right or wrong, they are family. Look what you do for your family.
Best of luck.
The big question is if what happens next will follow Spencer as he gets to Montana. I think probably not, but maybe the mob shows up if that sequel 1944 ever happens. Also, Luca, dude, why not just wait until dark?
I need my pistol. No, you don't. I can't defend myself without it.
I highly recommend not using it.
Spoiler alert, he uses it. That's 2 deaths in the last 2 weeks, and honestly, I think we're just getting started. This guy is looking pretty shaky, but we'll get there later, if only because I don't have quite the stomach to talk about what's coming for Zane yet. You gotta give me another cup of coffee and I'll get there. What's next for Spencer is fairly predictable because we already have a 1923 teaser and trailer video, and it shows him walking, finding trouble on a freight train, and running into Marshal Mammy Fawcett.
30 miles from anything. Where are you headed?
Montana. Family needs me.
I think she's going to help him, if only because she seems to be one of the good guys. We revisited what Father Rayno and Marshall Kent did to those Native American children during this episode. If you recall, those men came to her looking for help and didn't mention the half dozen or so Comanche boys they gunned down the night prior. During episode 3, the new Marshal puts it all together.
This 2 lawmen and a priest did this. Did it to the boys' parents at their home site too.
Priest?
You know them?
Mm-hmm.
Get him. Just get him. And hopefully soon, because it seems like the priest and the dirty cop have Teona's plan to hide among the cowboys figured out. We didn't see Teona at all during this episode. In fact, we didn't see a whole bunch of the cast from episode 3. Pete and Sheriff McDowell also got the week off. Banner and Donald Whitfield were on vacation, which means we didn't see my boy Clyde this week. If you listen to the Dutton Rules podcast, you know I'm a huge Clyde fan, and I actually got to interview him. That's coming up on this channel on March 31st. At the end of this video, it's my podcast co-host Adison Haager's interview with Michelle Randolph, who plays Elizabeth Stratford. I'm going to talk about her next.
Okay, so if your character, Elizabeth, had access to Google, what do you think would be the first thing that she Googles?
How deadly is rabies?
That was good.
Thank you.
There's something I couldn't quite figure out about the rabies shots that they're giving Elizabeth after she was attacked by that rabid wolf in episode 2.
No! Please, no!
I know it hurts.
Why in the world does that hurt so much? Totally admit to being naive here. But in all fairness, the internet tells me that modern rabies shots are given to the arm and leg after a single shot is administered to the bite spot. There are still a whole bunch of shots though, and rabies is still fatal if left untreated. Until about the mid-1980s, rabies shots were given in the stomach, and the stomach muscles are extremely sensitive. Still, is Elizabeth overreacting? Aunt Kara thinks so.
The world is not a fair place, as you've surely realized by now, but it has been far kinder to you than to the woman lying in the back of Dr. Miller's buggy. That I can assure you.
Yeah, I need that again. Just gonna rewind and replay because there are just days when my kids need to hear this.
Now, you are a woman. Whether you're ready to be one is debatable, but a woman you are. It's time to act like it.
My God, do I love this character. I may go as far as to say Helen Mirren is the single best actor in the Yellowstone franchise. If not, who is? Comment below and we'll discuss the results on Thursday. The Dutton men finally return home and Jack Dutton's all like, "Hey, honey, I'm home." And Liz is all but, "You did this to me." She says she's gonna leave him, but here's why I don't think that happens. So, if you think they end up being the parents to Kevin Costner's John Dutton's father, there is still hope, although Alexandra's baby still seems more likely. It's complicated.
Doctor has to drill a hole, relieve the pressure.
That's the good news?
Compared to the bad news, it is.
What's the bad news?
Jacob's good news, bad news speech was less effective than his wife's talk with Elizabeth. Zane has been diagnosed with a subdural hematoma, which is basically blood on the brain. The doctor needs to drill to relieve the pressure, but...
Well, I have a drill. But I have no anesthesia.
100% chance we see that scene next week. Can't wait. Finally, we get to talk about Alex. Here she is arriving on the ferry to Ellis Island, and if you've watched 1883 and now 1923, you know without Googling that Thomas C. Millard was the actual name of the boat used to make this transport in 1923. Taylor Sheridan has this whole thing with using actual boat names in this series. Virtually every vessel you saw in season 1 actually existed. I would love an interview with either Taylor or the set designer from this show just to figure out how they recreated Ellis Island. Also, I totally want to read a bunch of first-hand accounts from immigrants. I mentioned my grandfather. He didn't really talk about it too much, or maybe I was just a little bit too young to care. It looks like a miserable place.
And they wonder why we check them. Noted chart.
What did you write on me?
I'm noting your pregnancy for the next examiner.
Alex lands and is poked and prodded and probed and more or less told she can't enter America because she's pregnant.
The soldiers said pregnant women cannot come in. They sent us back.
Was this an accurate representation of what Ellis Island was like in 1923? Yes, absolutely it was. The official Statue of Liberty Ellis Island website downplays it, but PBS has a really great article that I linked to below. It shares things like over 120,000 immigrants were sent home, over 3,500 died there, and once World War I started, anti-immigration sentiment peaked, so inspectors' objectivity was definitely in question.
You bend over, keeping your legs straight, and pick the stool up.
What would be the medical purpose of that?
The medical purpose would be to see if you can do it. America has no need for mongrels or invalids.
By 1923, the number of people allowed to enter from each country was limited, and by 1924, only those thought to be sick or criminals were taken to Ellis Island. Alex makes it through in large part because she shames the immigration official processing her. She also proves she's employable because she can read.
Re-examine all that you've been told and dismiss that which insults your soul. Which is exactly what I will be doing with you regardless of your decision.
That book is Walt Whitman's Leaves of Grass, and as far as I can tell, she looks to be jumping around between 2 or 3 different passages from the book. 2 more important things we learn here are Alex's real age.
Date of birth.
The 1st of April, 1901.
Set your belongings down, please.
And we learn that she doesn't really have a maiden name. She was simply Alexandra, Countess of Sussex, which seems odd, except for the current Duchess of Sussex was recently on a podcast and corrected the host who kept calling her Meghan Markle. Her last name is now Sussex. Royals are strange, y'all.
Hide your money in your shoe, keep your eyes open, don't wander any empty streets. And the nicer somebody's being, the less you can trust them.
Once she exits Ellis Island, Alex needs to get a train at Grand Central Station. This old-timer helps her out, and so too does the guy at the train ticket window.
Then put that somewhere different now. Every pickpocket in the terminal just saw you hiding place.
It all really ramped up our fear for Alex as she prepared to board the train, and the episode ends with this cliffhanger that has everyone panicking.
I suppose it is not anticipation at all. It is fear. It is absolute terror that the world will not let me have you.
Online, people think she's either robbed or raped or worse. But let's flash forward to a scene from the official trailer.
It's lost to me.
Yeah, Bowler Hat attacks, but here is some evidence that she escapes from Bowler Hat. Man, I just hope she gets on that train. Best case scenario, she's 1 week out from Bozeman, which means she'd arrive before Spencer, I think. That is, if they both make it. To me, that seems to be a very dicey proposition. Staff at tasteofcountry.com with all your comments, questions, and theories. And if you enjoy a longer conversation about 1923 and all the shows in the Yellowstone franchise, visit the Dutton Rules podcast weekly. We do cast interviews as well. In fact, there's a link to our interview with Alexandra actress Julia Schlaepfer below, but my podcast co-host Adison Haager had a chance to talk to Michelle Randolph, starting with her favorite memory from her time on set with both Helen Mirren and Harrison Ford. I'm Billy Dukes for Taste of Country. Thanks for watching, and thanks for subscribing.
I want to enter this on just a fun, lighthearted note. You got to work so closely with Helen and Harrison. And so I want to know, what's a sweet memory? We can go like on screen or really just like on a personal note. Do you have a sweet memory where you're like, oh my gosh, this will live forever in my mind?
Honestly, like every moment on set with them, it's crazy because like I learned so much in scenes with both of them. I mean, I worked a lot with Helen specifically, but like just getting to know her off screen too. Like you sit in chairs on set for so many hours, and she just like she couldn't be more lovely. She was always concerned that I was cold, which I found very sweet.
Were you always cold?
Yes. Yes, I was.
You did fit.
Yes.
Was there any sweet, I mean, I think that's really sweet just in moments like that where you just get to have conversation with people and people that, you look up to. Is there anything that you took, and I'm sure there's so much, so me asking one thing, you're like, oh my gosh, but is there one thing that you really, a nugget that you'll take with you of advice, life?
Yeah, I mean, I really, again, like you said, like there's so many things that Helen taught me or just like things that she would say that have really stuck with me and will forever. But like the number one thing that I have taken from working with her is that like she genuinely loves this and she's so passionate, and like every single day she cares about every single scene and every take. And I think just like that level of dedication is why she is who she is. And so I was just very inspired by that.
Yeah, absolutely. I have loved I watched you in Landman and then seeing you in 1923. I love seeing just you be able to play such a wide range of characters. And I think specifically with Elizabeth, I mean, her and Jack experienced so much, specifically season 1. And now we come into season 2, the first 3 episodes of y'all have been through so many brutal moments. And so I want to know, we can either go this season or even last season. Was there a moment, because obviously you're playing a character, but you're also you. And so was there any scene that was really emotional to film that you might have taken with you home that you didn't necessarily expect?
I think there's like multiple scenes in season 2 that were just like hard to come off of, because like the stakes are really high in season 2, and there's a lot of tragedy that goes on, and like when you care about a character a lot or you're on set all day in these like very intense emotional scenes, it's like you can't just like turn it off immediately, but like I spent so much time with the cast and crew that like we all just really were there for each other throughout the whole filming process. And also, I think like genuinely the most emotional scene for me was just the very last one, because it's like, oh my gosh, we're wrapping up another season. I'm not ready to say goodbye right now.
Was there a way, you know, I think when fans hear this and they might not always realize that, you know, you can't just turn it off. I mean, you are Elizabeth. So is there anything like, what do you do, I guess, to kind of slowly but surely step back once the director's yelled cut?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, I really have to stay in it when I'm filming it on set, and then as soon as the day is over, like I just have to go home and be in silence and do a lot of journaling. I call my mom. I mean, I also, like, we were on location, and so like it was really nice to not have to go back to like the chaos of like your personal real life. Like I was really just able to kind of immerse myself into 1923 world for like a month and a half straight, and so that was helpful as well.
I love, what is girl time? I love everything you, Julia, have posted together of time off screen. What do you know? Are we watching rom-coms? Like, what does this look like when we can hang out?
Gosh, everything. I mean, I think like half the time we just don't stop talking. And then exploring. I mean, we really have gotten, I think what's fun is like we've all explored so much of Montana together. And so that was like definitely a highlight just of filming in general.
Yeah. Was there a favorite spot that y'all went to?
I went to Whitefish and Glacier Park, which is like one of the most beautiful places I've ever been. And it was like right before it snowed, so it was like that crisp kind of like fall merging into November, and like that by far I have to go back there because it was just perfect.
Oh my gosh, that sounds, and I think you're based in California, right? So I'm sure just like experience that type of season too was
Yeah, we don't get that here at all.
What would you, so focusing on season 1 and then these first 3 episodes of season 2, what has been the biggest script surprise to you? And did you ever at any point get angry and almost come up to Taylor being like, excuse me, can we rewrite this a little differently?
I think I felt that more so in season 1, because when I first booked the job, like I only had the first 3 or 4 scripts. And so like throughout filming is when I would get the new episodes. And I thought for so long of season 1 that I would be written riding a horse, because I was like, just went through 2 weeks of cowboy camp. Like there's no way I'm not going to. And so that was definitely something I was like, when I saw Taylor, I was like, can I please get on a horse? At least like I have this skill now. I need to show it. So that was, yeah.
Well, then I guess and because this is not a spoiler necessarily, but do you eventually get to go on? Michelle, are you going on a horse at some point?
I can't tell you. Oh. I'm sorry.
I feel like dang it. Okay. Well, we'll have to circle back. I hope for your sake that you got, I mean, that's a lot of, like you said, this is a skill, like you want to prove that you can.
Yes. But honestly, like it's just a good skill to have. So I'm happy regardless.
What would you say? Obviously, Jack and Elizabeth, y'all are a couple on 1923, so you spend a lot of time on screen, off screen. I love asking this question when situations like this arise. What would you say, and I know he's not here, but what would you say is a quirk of his that you've learned, and then what would he potentially say about you?
Oh, that's so funny. I feel like, Darren and I have such a, like, he's one of my great friends, and I feel like we just make fun of each other most of the time that we're on set. I mean, I feel like he probably would say that I drink way too much water. And
hydrate girl.
Yeah, I can't. And then I don't know what his quirks are. He always repeats like a line to me from season 1. Like we just quote one of this one scene to each other constantly. So that's something kind of silly, I guess.
What's the scene?
It's when he says, it's our first scene together, when he says like, your daddy's a rancher, honey, you know the deal. And so we just like constantly repeat that phrase to each other. We've probably said it a million times.
You need it on a shirt now at this point.
Yeah, your daddy's a rancher, honey, you know the deal.
I want to know how much, now knowing kind of like how your role plays in 1923, how much did knowledge of what the Dutton family becomes in Yellowstone shape your character? Kind of like working backwards. How did that shape it for you?
Just how strong the women are, especially Beth Dutton, like her fiery side and the like strength of the Dutton women, I think is like what I took most from watching Yellowstone. And I also actually felt that way about 1883 too, is Elsa. And I love that she narrates the show. Like, I just think that's such a, like, it's very sentimental. It makes me emotional to, like, hear her voice because I was so attached to her character in 1883.
I love that Taylor has brought her throughout all three. Absolutely.
Yeah. It ties it together really nicely.
Have you gone to Isabel May? Have you gotten to meet her yet?
No, I haven't met her.
Oh, I hope that.
I do too. I would love to meet her.
Last question for you as we wrap up. Okay, so if your character, Elizabeth, had access to Google, what do you think would be the first thing that she Googles?
How deadly is rabies?
That was good.
Thank you.
How deadly is rabies? That's a good one. Well, Michelle, thank you so much for your time, and I hope that you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. Nice to talk to you.